Back from break here on Boles TV. It's BOLES.TV. It's Boles.television, coming to you live and in person. High noon, Monday through Friday. 9 a.m. Eastern? No. Now we're at high noon Eastern. Weekdays. So, there's a very disturbing thing that's been going on in academia for several years, and it's really a big problem. And it is this, that students think they know more than the instructors. They think they can tell a professor how to teach them, how to grade them. And if the teacher does not follow their demands, and they're all different, you have a class of 300 students and they all want different teaching, individualized teaching, 300 of them. Not all students are this way, but many are. They will gang up on the teacher, make a complaint, go to the chair of the department. I don't like this teacher, too difficult. And either the chair stands by the instructor, or, as in the case of a very famous, well-known organic chemistry professor who was 82 years old and who taught at Princeton and then NYU, gets fired because students didn't like him. Students didn't respond to his way of teaching. And frankly, it disgusts me as a human being and as an instructor. And it's difficult because students think they run the university, and the students don't run the university. The students are part of the university system. Is it fair that students in one class in one semester can try to ruin the career of a professor who's been teaching for 50 years because they think he's old-fashioned and mean and unfriendly? Well, in the case of NYU, that's exactly what happened. Students got together, signed a petition. Oh, yeah, let's go after him. He's grading us too hard. Oh, we didn't want him to get fired. No, we just started a petition to complain to the university that we don't like this teacher. And this is nothing new. Camille Paglia also had the same situation. She's a super genius. So here's how this is unfolding yesterday in the New York Times. Maitland Jones Jr., a respected professor, defended his standards, but students started a petition, and the university fired him. I mean, it's sickening to me. Students said Maitland's course was too hard and blamed him and his teaching methods for their poor showings. And what are you going to do? These students get together, they collude. They say, oh, if we all go together as one, then they'll have to listen to us. And it's NYU's detriment that they fell for this farce. In the field of organic chemistry, Maitland Jones has a storied reputation. He taught the subject for decades. Oh, no, the students know better, right? First at Princeton, then at New York University, he wrote an influential textbook. He received awards for his teaching as well as recognition as one of NYU's coolest professors. It's difficult to read this and to experience it. Artist Door says, I agree with you, that's not right. I know, see, but the problem is we're old. We're old, we know what it means. You have to go out and prove yourself. You have to hunker down, shape up, fly right. Students, they don't want that. And their argument is, I'm paying $60,000 a year to go here, and that means I get easy grading. And there are universities like NYU who say with a straight face to these students, I agree with you. And so what does that mean? It means one thing and one thing only, after we're done talking about this: grade inflation. Everybody gets an A. Okay. Don't have to do any work. Okay. No bell curve. Blind grading, all A's. Okay. Students are going to love that. Professors don't like it. But if you're not supported by your university, then what choice do you have? You're stuck. All A's for everybody. And then the university's reputation goes down because you're graduating students who don't know anything, because they've all been pushed along, passed along in the system. It's a reckoning, and it's going to take a few years to find its final effect, but this is a chilling, chilling story about a professor who is wrongly dismissed. Last spring, as the NYU campus emerged from pandemic restrictions, 82 of his 350 students in that one class signed a petition against him. So, how many students does it take to get rid of a professor? 6, 10, 10%, 15%? Students said the high-stakes course, notorious for ending many dreams of medical school, was too hard, blaming Dr. Jones, blaming him for their poor test scores. And this course he may be old, he may be chilly, he may be sarcastic, but he was surrounded by many TAs, teaching assistants, who were warm, friendly, and could relate. And if you needed help, and you didn't want to go to him, you could go to the TAs, who sit down with you and will individually tutor you and help you. Oh, no, that's too much work. I just want to go, sit down, show up, or maybe not, and be given an A, because I pay $60,000 a year for tuition. The professor defended his standards, but just before the start of the fall semester, university deans terminated Dr. Jones's contract. The officials also had tried to placate the students by offering to review their grades. Change their grades is what that means. Allowing them to withdraw from the class retroactively. The chemistry department's chairman, Mark E. Tuckerman, said the unusual offer to withdraw was a one-time exception granted to students by the dean of the college. It's despicable. The deans are going for some bottom line. They want happy students who are saying great things about the university, so more people apply. Meow, meow. And that's a big problem. So these teachers out there, you're tough. You want to teach the students something that they don't know. They don't want to learn it. And they're going to give you bad evaluations. And NYU does what I call rolling evaluations. Throughout early evaluations are open to you to see what your students think of you. And it's up to you as the instructor. You change. You get those students on your side. You get them to give you high ratings, or you're out. And so again, what are you going to do? If you're young, upcoming, you want to have good reviews, you want to have good feedback from your students. Everybody gets an A. Oh, then, magically, the evaluations are positive. Students aren't learning anything because you're not teaching anything. You're not challenging them to think. You're not challenging them to learn. You're leaving them to their own daring do. Dare we say daring do-do. Art Historia says, I will have to ask my son what he thinks of it. My son was also an instructor. I already know what your son is going to say. Foo-foo on the students. Because they will terrorize. If they sense weakness in you, They will terrorize you and take advantage of you. Not all students. More often than not. They say weakness, they pounce. They see an easy way out, they do it. And when the university entertains their ridiculousness, it's bad for the university. Dr. Jones, 84, is known for changing the way the subject is taught. I call that super genius. And sometimes in life, you're going to have difficult people who are 84 years old and who don't want to listen to your ridiculous reasons why you can't come to class and why you can't study. You think the real world's that way? You think the real world is going to entertain why you don't feel like coming to class? The real world is going to punch you in the face and choke you and kick you hard on the knees so you fall down. And you're going to start a petition. You're going to go collect signatures to revenge against the world treating you unfairly. In addition to writing the 1,300-page textbook, Organic Chemistry, which, in my very brief reading about this topic, is the textbook. The guy wrote the book for teaching organic chemistry. And NYU students say, oh, we don't want him. No. Not the author of the textbook. No. He's too hard. He'll expect us to learn something. And if we don't do it right, oh, well, he's not going to be nice to us. He's going to give us a low grade. We deserve it, but we don't want it. Now in its 5th edition, he pioneered a new method of instruction that relied less on rote memorization and more on problem solving. And that appeared to sort of be the crux of this whole thing, is that he doesn't want you to just repeat back something you've memorized. He presents you with a problem to solve. And based on your experience of learning in the class, you have to solve the problem. Well, the students didn't want that. After retiring from Princeton in 2007, he taught organic chemistry at NYU on a series of yearly contracts. About a decade ago, he said in an interview, he noticed a lot of loss of focus among the students, even as more of them enrolled in his class hoping to pursue medical careers. Students were misreading exam questions at an astonishing rate, he said, in a grievance to the university over his firing. Grades fell even as he reduced the difficulty of his exams. And if I'm right, I believe NYU offers any student admitted to medical school free tuition. So you have a lot of people lining up to get an NYU medical school. And if you take organic chemistry and you fail that class, you can't get a free ride from NYU for medical school. The problem was exacerbated by the pandemic, he said. In the last 2 years, they fell off a cliff. We now see single-digit scores and even zeros. And as someone in one of the online groups said, who was familiar with the situation, they said, this is the first class who took this class with this professor where NYU no longer required SAT scores to get into the university. So you had that fence up for all these years. You need a certain score on the SAT test or you're not getting in. We're not even going to look at you. Well, now because of COVID, you can't take a test. Okay, no more SATs. They're unfair. They're culturally insignificant because they punish people. Forget the SAT. Just come on over to NYU. And you have experienced teachers like this saying, look, ever since that policy was put in place, the quality of student has gone down. After several years of COVID learning loss, the students not only didn't study, they didn't know how to study, Dr. Jones said. So, to ease pandemic stress, Dr. Jones and 2 other professionals taped 52 organic chemistry lectures. And the NYU Adjunct Union says the university cannot force you into recording any of your classes. It's against the contract. They can ask you, hey, do you mind recording? But they cannot force you. They cannot demand that you record your class. So he did that on his own to be helpful to these failing students. And they turn around and get rid of him. Dr. Jones said that he personally paid more than $5,000 to create these 52 videos, and that they are still used by the university today. Oh no, but that was not enough. In 2020, some 30 students out of 475 filed a petition asking for more help, said Dr. Aurora, who taught that class with Dr. Jones. They were really struggling. The students were struggling, he explained. They didn't have good internet coverage at home. All sorts of things. They weren't coming to class because I can count the house, Dr. Jones said. They weren't watching the videos. The 52 videos I paid $5,000 for out of my own pocket. They weren't able to answer the questions. He's an old guy. He's a teacher. He knows they're not reading the stuff. What can he do about it? Well, it's not going to be their fault. Not these new students. No. It's never my fault. It's the university's fault. It is the professor's fault. I am faultless. I got into NYU. I didn't have to provide my SATs, but I'm here. And now you have to deal with me and my petitions. Students could choose between two sections, one focused on problem solving, the other on traditional lectures. Students in both sections shared problems on a group Meet chat and began venting about the class. Oh, not to help each other, not to solve problems, but to have a bitch session about the teacher on a group Meet chat. Those texts, those gripes, kick-started the petition. The students criticized Dr. Jones' decision to reduce the number of midterm exams from 3 to 2, flattening their chances to compensate for their low grades. They said that he had tried to conceal course averages, did not offer extra credit. Nobody offers extra credits. This is not a high school. This is a university. It's organic chemistry. We're trying to train you to become a medical doctor. They don't have extra credit in surgery. And he removed Zoom access to his lectures, even though some students had COVID. And they said he had a condescending and demanding tone. Well, I say to you, in the most condescending and demanding tone I can create, welcome to the real world. You're going to find a lot of a-holes out there, and you're going to have to figure out how to deal with them, because not everyone is going to bend to the pressure of your petition, because they don't care. One teaching assistant in the problem-solving section of the course defended Dr. Jones in an email to university officials, saying, I think this petition was written more out of unhappiness with exam scores than an actual feeling of being treated unfairly. I have noticed that many of the students who consistently complained about the class did not use the resources we afforded to them. And who won? The bad behavior of the students? Yes. The genius textbook writing professor, 82 years old? You're out. Get out. The entire controversy seems to illustrate a sea change in teaching, from an era when professors set the bar and expected the class to meet it, to the current more supportive student-centered approach. Dr. Jones said, I learned to teach during a time when the goal was to teach at a very high and rigorous level. We hope that students will be seeing that putting them through that rigor is doing them some good. Well, I agree with the doctor, and now I say good luck with that. NYU is evaluating so-called stumble courses, courses that are hard, that are like a barrier you have to leap over successfully in order to move on to the next thing, like free medical school. Stumble courses in which a higher percentage of students get D's and F's. Organic chemistry has historically been one of those courses. Do these courses really need to be punitive in order to be rigorous? Yes, because how else are you going to evaluate the student? You cannot have every student getting an A. I remember great inflation. Harvard University several years ago. Students are very upset. They said, I'm an A student. And the instructor would say, good. Here's a rigorous exam. We're going to have things even out, and not everyone's getting an A. And the students fought back. They said, but we are all A students. We go to Harvard. We wouldn't be here unless we were A students. To give us anything less than an A is about you, professor, not about us. Now, how ridiculous is that? That everybody's equal. Everybody deserves an A. Oh, you didn't do the work. Well, that doesn't matter, because I'm going to go complain to the dean, and the dean's going to fix it for me. Dr. Jones's course evaluations were by far the worst, not only among members of the chemistry department, but among all the university's undergraduate science courses. Well, of course, when you're the object of hatred and despise, you're going to be graded pretty lowly. Professors in the chemistry department have pushed back. In a letter to Dr. Gabazadze and other deans, they wrote that they were worried about setting a precedent completely lacking in due process. You're fired. That could undermine faculty freedom and correspondingly enfeeble proven pedagogic practices, which means the instructor knows more than you do. The instructor shares, the instructor teaches, you either receive it or not. As Howard Stein at Columbia University, the city of New York, used to tell me, my mentor, my friend, you toss it out there, and students will either catch it or they won't. It's really just that simple. One chemistry professor who signed that letter said the university's actions may deter rigorous instruction, especially given the growing tendency of students to file petitions. Oh, it's sickening. Now the faculty who are not tenured, this professor says, are looking at this case and thinking, wow, what if this happens to me? And they don't renew my contract. Well, that's the threat. Oh, we're the students. We don't like you. And we can get rid of you. Now that's chilling. And Dr. Jones agrees, saying, I don't want my job back. I just want to make sure this doesn't happen to anyone else. And I agree with Dr. Jones. It's really treacherous. It's really awful. And it's just beginning at NYU and other places. The teaching comes first, then the learning, and I hope one day, never the complaining. Because there's always an excuse for failing to perform. And if the job of the university is to prepare students to perform, they cannot be pushed along, they cannot be placated with their stupid petitions. They need to be challenged and graded fairly, and given the opportunity to prove themselves viable and important in the real world beyond the walls of the university. But when you're in the business of pushing students in and out of your school at $60,000 a year or whatever, You're in a business. You're not in academe. You're not worried about creating great minds for the future. You're just concerned with your endowment and parents' money and student loans from the kids who complain to get what they want. And it's very easy to think that if Dr. Jones had given in all the way and said, look, hey, everybody gets an A, he'd still be teaching today at NYU.